It's the 6th of June, 2025. Coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. After a deep dive into the arrest of Dr. Robert Young, we opened up a very large can of worms. The deep state has been slandering Trump on social media, even his own people, the Q crew. Want to know why? We have all the intel. BlackRock is in hot water, and by hot water, I mean boiling hot. And there is a major witch hunt going on like the U.S. has never seen before. This is bigger than Watergate ever was, and we have the whole story. Well. It is the 6th of June, and it feels like a year since I last talked to you. There has been so much going on in the United States and in the world. Wow, what a week. Now, I didn't make it to Wednesday's report because there was a little bit in question as to what was, not only what was going on, but there were things flying so fast that I was trying to keep up more from a safety and intelligence standpoint than I was trying to keep up with the report that we were going to say, because it was changing minute by minute. So I'm going to start with Robert Young. So Dr. Robert Young, we did a large interview, or a lengthy interview, I should say, with Sonny and Robert Young last Sunday. And you got to hear his side of the story. For those of you that don't know and haven't watched it, Robert Young is a doctor, which they say he wasn't. He wrote many books on the pH diet. So that being said, I know, some of you have said, oh, I was doing this in the 70s and of course, but he wrote the book. It became real popular at that time. When the first book came out, it was, he was probably like an earlier version of the medical medium, or, an earlier version of Dr. Oz even. He was on many television shows and that kind of thing. So one thing we talked about in our last report is that, Dr. Robert Young is a Mormon, and that most of these disputes are usually handled in-house between, business members and other members of the church. So it was very unusual for them to take it to the courts and eventually land him in jail more than once. And so I started doing some digging after the report came out, and we got a message from his team that was very interesting, where, they asked about the information that I put out, and he said that was right. And he gave us a little bit of additional information to do a little digging into. So the events quickly unfolded from there. So the message came in probably about midnight or so, the night before, and I said, I'll just do it early in the morning. So early in the morning, I got up and started doing some research into what was really going on here. Because one of the things that came to light is that BlackRock managed a significant portion of the Mormon church and their business associates within the church and outside the church, managed a significant amount of the funds. In addition to BlackRock, there is another group called Ensign Peak Advisors. But in my deep dive, I didn't find much in the way of any kind of, let's just say, things that you would consider odd, or any kind of maleficent intent or anything coming from Ensign Peak. That all seemed pretty normal. And it seems Ensign handles a lot of the, the tithing and whatnot of the normal church members, which is still significant. It's almost $300 billion or so. At least that's what's on the record. And they do handle some of the other funds of the church, some of the larger projects and that type of thing, like, the repairs being done up to the temple, that, nothing real major. So on the flip side of it, BlackRock, well, let's just say not quite as ethical. BlackRock managed several $100 billion of the church's funds, to include several business members who have multi-million-dollar businesses within the church. And in doing some digging here, we found out that a significant chunk of the money had gone missing. Now, the numbers that they were reporting to the church were not the same as the numbers that we found in relation to the management of funds, meaning, they might be reporting that there's 700 billion or 800 billion or 900 billion or some large amount, that they have under management and it's growing and life is good in the city. But that was completely false. The money was missing. And I relayed that information to a couple of people because something was wrong here. The other thing that we found out, and I'm going to handle this very lightly because really it's not my call and not my choice, and, let's just leave it at that. So, publicly speaking, Russell Nelson is a gentleman who is the current president of the Mormon Church. The Mormon Church is typically run by the president and a quorum of 12 that run the church, plus a few what they call counselors that advise the president. When I started looking into what was really going on in the church, because like I said, there was something wrong when these matters with Robert Young were not handled by the, internally in the church there. So I started doing some digging, and it appears that there is someone, or was someone, from Team Trump in one case, but also from BlackRock, that was heavily involved in at least the financial aspect of the church and was trying to be extremely influential as to the running of the church, namely their business affairs, because, for those people, it's all about the money. In part, they were saying things that were out of the norm for the church, such as, everyone must be vaccinated and that kind of thing, which is something the church sort of seemed to frown upon, in years prior. So after digging, and I mean digging, it appears that these BlackRock people were trying to influence business decisions of the church and also other decisions of the church. And sometimes by influence, I don't necessarily mean in a kind, caring, financial advisor type of way. I mean threat, lots of threats. Now, the church, historically speaking, is mostly Republican. They usually err on the side of the Republican Party. And that seems to be the case here as well as it relates to, Trump getting into office, making political donations, that type of thing. What they didn't know, up until the point where they were told, was that their political donations extended far beyond their knowledge, and the political donations that they made willingly were nothing and a drop in the bucket, which was still fairly hefty in comparison to the funds that BlackRock sent out the back door. Some of those funds that they sent out the back door to BlackRock went on to fund things that most business people, at least ethical business people, would consider to be unsavory. They would consider this to be something they wouldn't be interested in supporting, such as, wars and let's just say known terrorist groups and all of those types of things. So the Trump operatives were doing their atypical thing that they've always done. They take honestly earned money from people They use it to buy terrorist groups and other things. And then if you decide to squeak about it or complain about it, then they're going to try to frame you. And I did warn them about that as well. So there's a lot more to that story, but I prefer that to not be my business and not be yours. There's a lot of inner workings, obviously, of the church that I prefer not to discuss at the moment, because that's not really the big story here. But that's where this kind of all began. So abruptly, this all started kind of really escalating on Tuesday and definitely into Wednesday, where the information was received. They went and checked the real numbers at BlackRock, found out what I said was to be true, and then went into a full-on investigation. By the time it was time for me Wednesday evening to do the GIA report, they were investigating me very, very heavily at that moment, and I really wasn't sure what was going to happen. And so I'm like, well, I better just sit here and shut up for the night because I wasn't sure exactly what was going to take place. Well, within moments of me watching this investigation, I let them pull the files, let them to see who I am, what I've done. They quickly found out from their now the tables have turned person who was attempting to run the church on behalf of BlackRock. Let's just say he was heavily interrogated, and others within BlackRock were also heavily interrogated. And they found out a lot of their businesses also, not just church businesses, had lost a lot of money, and that their money in their accounts was simply gone. They started making a lot of calls to other places that are significant that BlackRock would manage. And they found out that, a lot of sovereign wealth funds from China were missing, Australia, Russia, a lot of oligarchs' money was missing. This is, it amounts after their investigation was done. And, I followed along with the bouncing ball. It appeared that there were trillions missing from BlackRock's coffers. The trillions of missing money all traced back to Trump operatives. And that's where it got real, real sticky. So then someone flew on a private jet over to Washington, D.C., and started questioning the Trump team as to what the heck happened here. So the money definitely, all roads led to the White House, basically, and the Trump operatives for everyone, China included, Russia, everyone. And they started asking, where is our money? We want our money back. Where the heck is our money? What's going on here? Of course, the Trump operatives said, oh, it wasn't me, typical spook fashion. But that didn't hold up with these guys. Now, you see, if you don't know, I'll just kind of give you a little bit more information here. The Mormon Church calls themselves God's Army. And I've talked to some higher ranking members in the past, and they are the ones that told me about it. They told me that they are considered God's army. Therefore, they have a lot of lawyers, a lot of people within intelligence agencies all throughout the United States. There isn't an agency in the United States that does not have Mormons working there. Let's just say at some capacity or another. They are there to defend, in the eyes of the wards and the people in the church, I'm going to say the people in the church, they are here to defend their own people, their own families, their own livelihood, and of course, God, and country. They're quite patriotic over there as it relates to the United States. So on that note, yeah. So they have plenty of resources at their fingertips to do a lot of research and do it very, very quickly. And they knew that they were lying. Some more information was, let's just say, given, and they had determined the same thing I had determined, that the trillions of dollars missing from BlackRock actually went to a server that was tied to, up until a few months ago, the Iron Mountain data facilities around the world. They took the money from an on-ledger money situation, moved it off-ledger, and once money is moved out of the banking system, it no longer holds an allocation number. Once it no longer holds allocation numbers and quotas, that money is just numbers on a screen. You cannot put it back into the system. Now, no matter how many times we have told the Trump operatives that this is how it is, and in order to put it back into the system, you must register it with the key integrated monetary system, which is visible for everybody to see. It's not a secret. And that would mean they would need my permission to put it back into the system. Of course, nobody believed me and figured, one of these days ending in Y, or planetary alignments or full moons or new moons or whatever they're looking for, that they would be able to be successful and put this money back into the system. That did not work out in any way, shape, or form. Therefore, when we were busy doing some other work, and you'll remember it's been a little bit of time, maybe a month or two, since I mentioned Iron Mountain data centers, and its connection to various AI data systems that were connected to various locations in the omniverse, then you'll remember when that server went bye-bye, and it's been some time. Now, at the time, I just saw, a bunch of AI systems that needed to go, that were harmful to humanity, that were preventing us from successfully bringing in the now and all of the things we're trying to do. More importantly, bringing source back to this planet. They were there for energy counters and all kinds of things, which had nothing to do with anybody's money. So was I aware that this is where they stashed it? Not really. I was more concerned about the health and welfare of people. So when it disappeared, and it couldn't be used for anything anyway at that point, they had basically destroyed that money. It'd be like burning an entire bonfire worth of US dollars and then trying to spend them later. I mean, it's basically the equivalent. So they gathered up all of their business associates around the world with all their multi-billion-dollar businesses and started telling everybody, hey, you got your stuff with BlackRock? Well, you need to go see if that money is still there. Hey, like this went on for hours and hours on Wednesday. So now, as of Wednesday night, all night long, they were on a full-on witch hunt. They had activated a lot of their assets within intelligence agencies in the United States because they were going to find out what was going on. They didn't want any more what we call word salad from the Trump operatives. It was just a bunch of jibber jabber, no clear answers, no clear accountability. And, for the most part, people like that and operatives always get away with that stuff. But you're talking to God's army now there, sweetheart, and that didn't go over very well with the Mormon Church. Okay, so by Thursday, crap started hitting the fan. The Mormons had activated all their assets within government. They had gotten into an enormous amount of physical fighting starting Wednesday night, continuing on into Thursday with Trump operatives and Trump operative assets, Secret Service and all kinds of people. And the fists were flying, everything was hitting the fan. I mean, it was a total show on Thursday. Now, that is when everybody started to squeal like piggies. And what I mean by squealing like little piggies is Elon Musk Elon Musk has been putting out tons of information. I think we pulled a couple things off of the Q site here. He was putting out tons of information. Here's number one, which is something we told you from the get-go, that Trump would have lost the election without Q and Elon's wallet. Q put him in the White House and Elon paid for it. You heard it here first, folks. I'm the one that told you that they used Elon Musk's money to get him into the White House. They used the money to run all of those campaigns and ridiculous rallies and staged alleged shootings and everything else that went on. And here it is in writing. Now, you can go to Elon Musk's Twitter account and it will say all the same things. We've been talking about a little bit of a rift going on between Trump operatives and Elon recently because Elon has not gotten his money back. Now, Elon, being a part of the group we call Doji, the Doji people had a lot of business with Iron Mountain. He even mentioned Iron Mountain and specifically the location in Pennsylvania where data is stored and retirements are delayed because the system is so antiquated. The whole government is going to go on a centralized AI system, he said. And that's because that's what the Trump operatives told him. And the Trump operatives told him that this was going to happen on a day ending in Y. And don't worry, Elon, we'll get your money back. It's not a problem. It'll come back. Don't worry. Well, it became apparent that not only did Elon lose a lot of money that he donated to the Trump people, billions of dollars, he also lost all his money at BlackRock due to the same people. Elon Musk has become extremely vocal lately, talking about the fact that he paid for it, that there needs to be a new political party in the United States. He also talked about the fact that 80% of the American people, want a new political party. And isn't that funny? It's that number. You and I have discussed many times before that 80% support for any one particular group gives them majority energy control to sell off planet, although they don't know how that mechanism works. We'll talk about that a little more in a minute. And now, oh boy, the feces is now flying in the Trump direction, left and right. So there are all of these tweets, including from the Q crew, which has completely turned against Trump, saying, and I think we've got a little clip there, completely turned against him, releasing all these files saying that he went to Epstein Island. Here's pictures of Trump on planes with Epstein. And, we told you that a long time ago. We had actually an old video from the 80s where they were at a party together. Of course they were involved together. They're all part of the same group. So this was all going down starting Thursday night, continued to ramp up through the day. This morning, Elon basically said that Trump should be impeached. He said that Vance should be president, which doesn't help you any. It's still the same operatives behind the scenes, but he's just loaded for bear. Okay, now let's flash forward to this morning. This is like a full-on assault now. By the Mormon Church. So the Mormons, by this morning, had everyone sequestered, as that little clip there said from the Q crew. They had everyone sequestered into various rooms. People in the Pentagon, people in the Capitol building, operatives all over the place. Everybody was divided and questioned individually. And this continued starting early in the morning, late Wednesday night, on through the day today. Everybody decided to sing like canaries, tell everybody what they knew, about Trump and about Trump operatives and what was going on. But one thing became really clear by early this morning. And that was nobody knows what's going on. Now you've got groups of people, countries even, that are out hundreds of billions of dollars, and nobody knows what's going on. Nobody has a clue on how they're going to fix it. Nobody knows how to do anything. So they started to try to get down to the down and dirty this morning. They started to try to ask anybody, anywhere, individually. They had thousands of people all over Washington, D.C., trying to figure out what the heck is going on. So maybe our friend there, Robert Young, is a little bit of a prophet himself, because this guy seemed to know exactly. He just kept saying something real big's coming within the next 2 weeks. Something real big is coming. Well, here it is. Robert, if this is what you were thinking, then there it is. So Thursday evening, the Mormons basically had done enough research to know that these people are not going to fix it. So by Thursday evening, they called the Trump operatives and basically told them they need to get out of the White House and that they're going to take over the financial affairs of the country to try to get things back on track before we do not have a country. The Trump operatives immediately sprung into action, because they're still around at this point, and they started pushing further, faster, the Burn the United States program to the ground. I've been telling you for years that the Rothschild family and now the Trump operatives have a plan to restructure the financial system of the world. I've told you that they want to burn the United States to the ground and transfer all power over to China. And then, it's kind of gone from China and Russia to China, Russia, and India, somewhat South Africa, throw in Brazil there. But now all of these people lost whatever money they had invested in BlackRock, and there's not a whole lot left in any of these countries at this point. Allegedly, according to the news, there was a call between President Xi and Trump on Thursday night. So dead people talking to dead people. So dead people talk to dead people on Thursday night, and they basically had a conversation about, look, we are going to have to expedite this Burn the United States program to the ground. We are going to have to expedite the program and the project. Are you prepared to pick things up immediately? I don't really know how to swear in Chinese, but if I did know how to swear in Chinese, it would kind of go like this a little bit. Hey, look, beep, 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 beep. Can't say those words. Four-letter word. You took all our money. You put it in this extra place, and now we lost all our BlackRock money. We have no money to buy the United States back at pennies on the dollar anymore. We have no money to fund the 9 sectors and jurisdictions of the planet, one world government program. We have nothing. You four-letter word. Probably, I don't know how many letters are in. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 7. You a-hole people, and it didn't really go very well. So, of course, because they have a lot of intelligence, Mormons also heard this conversation, so they knew that wasn't going to work. But they also now clearly understood that these people were put into the White House to burn it to the ground. It's also the backstory behind the reason why Q started blurting out all kinds of crap on Twitter and Telegram, and it appeared that everybody was eating everybody and everybody was against Trump and all of this, because they had to try to figure out a way, and they're really crappy operatives with no strategy. You see, these people do first and then ask questions later. And they just threw this operation together like gangbusters on Thursday afternoon, just crap flying everywhere, slinging here, slinging there, that person talking about that person, take down this and take down that. They needed to burn this government to the ground right quick. So before they got kicked out of the White House, that was what they were going for. So this stuff that you see all over the internet is just stuff. By this morning, everybody was sequestered into various rooms. Everybody was questioned. Did they take a part in not only stealing all of the funds out of BlackRock, but also did they know that was happening? And did they know the plan was to burn the U.S. to the ground? Because they're not very happy about that either. In the wake of all of that, they would have burned a lot of their businesses, and, they're very family oriented over there, so you don't mess with family. And yeah, so this continued on for many, many hours. So they started having conversations with other people other than the Trump people, because clearly those people didn't know what they were doing, and clearly they were not going to be on the side of actually fixing the United States, fixing the markets, and fixing everything. And nor did they have a plan B if the transfer power of the world to China plan didn't work. So, they didn't. Became apparent they're not going to have a seat on the world government and that kind of thing, at least not the Trump operatives anyway, nor are we probably going to have a world government anytime soon. So meetings started taking place fairly early in the morning, aside from all of the questioning that was going on in very weird ways. There was even a little clip there we posted where Q said we're being sequestered in the Capitol building. That actually happened. That is true. So many of them, different buildings, it sends out a little tweet shortly thereafter saying loyalty is earned, not given. Never forget that, family. In other words, don't stab each other in the back, guys. Keep with the program. If you happen to be reading your Twitter while you're sequestered in your room, can you please not screw us all over? Thank you. There's no honor amongst thieves. The most important meetings that took place today were between the Mormons and the elite and Langley 5 and global headquarters. I would say if there was a meeting of all meetings that took place today, that would be the one. So the meeting that took place with them earlier was, did you know, of course, what was going on? Who are these people? Who is running this show? They had done some more research on me. They knew that we had been providing funding to the U.S. government in the past. They knew that by now that I had been doing that since 2012. They knew that there was no other new money that came into the system. So now they're starting to wonder who is she? And I don't blame them. They also wanted to know, and one thing was very clear, that all of these people on the other side seem to hate me. They seem to think I'm crazy. They seem to think, she doesn't know what she's talking about. They say that stuff all the time. But clearly I had had multiple conversations with the then president in the previous administration on recorded diplomatic lines, which they managed to get their hands on. So they knew where the money was coming from, but where does that put the rotten children and everyone else? So I had a lengthy conversation. It was about almost 2 hours long this morning about how money works, meaning money is energy, energy flows, energy sells, energy is a commodity in the omniverse, energy powers AIs, energies from humans. This is how it works. Why we have hyperinflation in the market right now, what causes it, why hyperinflation is beneficial in an energy sucking and selling system. I explained in detail, very detailed, and we don't want this report to be 4 hours long, a very detailed discussion I had exactly how it works. So it was very clear to these people after listening to this whole conversation that they understand that I know how trade really works on this planet. We have a little bit more for that in a minute here. So there are other people that have claimed to be in charge. Langley 5 and global headquarters being a few of those people. So they were sat down and they had a discussion directly with the Mormons as to, where are we going? Is this true? You want to burn the country to the ground? Did you know about this? And that type of thing. That's what took place earlier this morning after the call. So that would have been probably about 11 a.m. or so Eastern, these meetings started. So they talked for a few hours about what they know and what they don't know. And, of course, everybody is subject to being thrown under the bus at this point, at least as it relates to the deep state. So they scheduled 3 additional meetings. The Mormons were silent on the meeting. They were just listening in. The questioning took place from Langley 5 and global headquarters, who also want to see who's in charge. Now, the first people up to be questioned was the Rothschild family and the Order of the Dragon. They were asked if they could explain in detail how new money comes into the system, because allegedly they're saying they're in charge of money in the financial system and have been telling them that for many, many years. So tell us how it works. And of course, they couldn't explain why we have hyperinflation. They couldn't explain much at all. They just basically said, money flows into the Fed. Well, where does it come from? Well, we don't, they told a big story. Oh, well, we push all the buttons over here and, it's just a matter of pushing the button. And, and so these people are like, well, we're out trillions of dollars and the U.S. is about to burn to the ground. Can you push one of those buttons now? And of course, that didn't happen. So each meeting was scheduled to be 1 hour in length and no longer. So let's just say the Rothschilds and the Order of the Dragon and the Chinese elders and all the people that attended the phone call did not pass the test. Next up were the black nobility. And the black nobility also couldn't answer enough of they didn't give them enough information to fully understand how commerce works on this planet and how money comes and where it comes from. According to them, it came from someone else. So next, last but certainly not least, it's the Trump operatives and the SSP folks from around the world who claimed that they're in charge. This is one of those things where everybody claims they're in charge. And basically, they gave a whole lot of what I call word salad. They gave word salad out. They didn't even answer the questions. Do you know where the stock exchange is? Well, let me tell you about the stock exchange in New York. It was started in a long time ago, and there was only a few stocks traded. And have you ever seen those people when they used to yell on the floor? Now we do a lot of that electronically. Like, what does this have to do? Do you know where it is? Can you give me the address? Right? And so they just went round and round and round in circles and didn't really answer any kind of questions and danced and danced and danced. But one thing was clear. They are full of it. Let's just say that was number one. And number two, nobody knows what the heck they're doing. So, yeah. One consistency that occurred between all of the groups and all of the people in all of the rooms was that everyone knew to some degree that they were to burn the United States economy and the U.S. dollar to the ground, and they were going to buy back the country for pennies on the dollar. Some of the people, not all of the people, but some of the people knew about the fact that the world was going to be divided ultimately into 10 sectors. 9 different divisions around the world, jurisdictions, if you will. No longer 200 some odd countries, it would just be 9 at that point. And there would be one world government, which would be the 10th, that would run them all. Everybody was promised positions on this one world government. And, did anybody know that they didn't have the whole plan? No, someone somewhere has the whole plan. Do you have the whole plan? No. Gee, I don't have the whole plan, they would say. And now they've got to try to figure out who the heck has the whole plan. What are they doing? No one had the whole plan. They didn't have the whole plan because only Marduk had the whole plan. And when Marduk was alive and he devised this plan in the 1980s, this could not happen without his assistance. And he is no longer with us. If he is not in charge of the systems, he could not have achieved this objective either. So we all know by 2007, Marduk lost access to the alpha side of the system, only leaving him with Omega and many other AIs that he built, over the years for many different functions throughout the omniverse that have nothing to do with Earth, and many do. But the one thing that I learned and that Marduk knew is the base root of the entire global financial system of the planet is not money. That may come as a shock to you that all work really hard to try to get some so that you can pay your bills and take care of your families and do what you do. However, the base root of the entire financial system, and I've given you some information about this before, is energy sales or looshing. The looshing business is the base root and the cornerstone of the existence of the global financial system. Marduk specifically created the financial system in such a way where every aspect of it was tied to you and the extraction of energy from you as a human. In most cases, you give it up willingly because you work, you put in hours, you try to do all kinds of things to get it, depending if you're greedy or not greedy. But we then retire and then we get some, of our money back, that we donate to the government and whatnot. But we don't get back all of the money we donate to all of their corporations, big scam. So much so that Marduk had figured out a few things and how inflation, for example, really works. Because let's face it, chickens laying eggs cost exactly the same today as it did 100 years ago. So why are the price of eggs, as one example, skyrocketing? Why is our homes much more expensive today than they were a long time ago? They create artificial things like supply and demand artificially. Diamonds aren't rare. Gold is not rare. Silver is not rare. The price is whatever they decide it's going to be. But do the people we think of as market makers, such as the Rothschild families, the Bank of England, the London fixing prices on the one hand, the commodities futures market on the other hand, that dictate the expense of things and how we live our life, are they really the ones that ever really did it? BlackRock thinks they're a market maker. Are they really? Not at all. All of these orders came from Marduk because Marduk knew how to extract energy in a way that the humans would never suspect. Now, for the last few years since he's been gone, it's been about 9 years. It'll be 9 years this August since he has been gone from running things on this planet. These weirdos have been trying to run this joint, and they have clearly driven us globally, not just the U.S., into the toilet because they don't understand what's happening. You see, Marduk would think of things like, okay, so person A, let's just call him a person, let's call him John. John wants to become a doctor. John goes through the public school system, already in debt to the government, and I mean the world government, because we've had one for a long time, headed by Marduk. He's already in debt about $10 million if this was a few decades ago, because $10 million has been issued to the U.S. government and to protect him. We've got the police department, we've got the Pentagon that are supposed to protect us. That really doesn't happen, but that's what they're supposed to do. Human health services to provide you with health care if you can't afford it. You have public school, which is very expensive, cost to the government. So money goes to that. You also have things like the fire department, and you have a roof over your head. You are occupying land space on this planet. All of this money here that they take out in a bond against your birth certificate went to fund all of those things. Now, they know that John, who wants to become a doctor, has to pay them back. Money has to continue to flow. See, because you got energy or money for free. Now you've got to give it all back. So John, in order to become a doctor, realizes he needs to attend a school. He needs to go to a university. And most of the universities that have the best doctor programs are very expensive. So John, because he doesn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars, John takes out student loans. Now, the cost of student loans plus interest is exorbitant, especially if you're going to school for 7 years, plus you've got to live through your residency and all of the things that doctors have to do. So John is already in debt. Now, the amount of John's debt to become a doctor has been carefully calculated by Marduk, because he understood what a doctor's salary is going to be. And he needed to make sure that probably not ever, or at some point around retirement, that he could pay back those student loans. And all of those student loans were granted by the government, which is the reason why the federal government has a student loan program in the first place. Because now you're paying back interest, you're paying back those bonds. See, the whole system is designed not to give you a lovely income so you can take care of your family. And by system, I'm not talking about government. It is designed so that you feel you have freedom. You feel that you are willingly giving your energy to something that you feel is worthwhile. Even if you hate your job, you feel it's worthwhile because it supports yourself, it supports your family, it supports your spouse. It allows you to take vacations to far off places or buy that car that you like. Unfortunately, you're buying that car you like from their car manufacturers. You're also giving them their money back. You're buying that airline ticket on an airline that they own and created, so therefore you're giving that money back. You're staying in a hotel, not all of the time, but a lot of the time, that you are giving them your money back. If you're staying in a Marriott, a Hilton, I can't even think of the Ritz-Carlton, think of all the hotels out there, all the big chains, and you're giving them your money back. So everything you do in your life has been designed for you to give that money back. Now, as far as the deep state is concerned, do they know part of that? Yeah, they probably know some of that. Do they understand the reason why their job is to give you a nice, comfy hotel room, a flight on an airline, or a student loan, or otherwise? What was Marduk really doing? He was basically saying, look, we have to put out energy, which to him was a debt. We have to put out some energy. We're not going to give the humans the energy. We're going to give them notes. So we're going to give them IOUs. So I'm going to take that energy back. Now, I still need the humans to generate energy consistently for me, and I need them to do this in such a way that it's almost like a multi-level marketing scheme. You see, if the elites of this planet, or very wealthy business owners, let's call them, want to maintain very wealthy businesses, then they need to create industries. So their job is to suck more energy out of you. As an example, let's take the Oppenheimer family. The Oppenheimer family owns a lot of diamond mines around the world. They have marketed the fact that in order to be engaged or to be married as a human, you must put a ring on it. That's been going on for eons, decades, probably longer than decades. So you got to get a diamond ring, not any other kind of ring. That's changed a little bit lately, but for the most part, they market it that way. Then when the feminist movement started, then they said, look, ladies, you don't need a man to have a ring, diamonds are a girl's best friend, diamonds, 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 diamonds. You can buy your own diamonds, feminists, here you go. They started marketing so everybody would buy diamonds. Now, diamonds are very expensive. Are they actually really rare? No. Many deals were made by the Oppenheimer family with Marduk at the time so that he would become a power center, and this is not the only group, but it's just one example. They would become the power center for extraction of energy from humans, we know as money. Because humans work hard for that money. It doesn't just fall out of the sky. And then that money is then given back to their corporations. Now there's a multi-level marketing scheme here with the diamond industry because they keep going up in price. Now, they made all kinds of deals, Oppenheimer did, and De Beers. They made all kinds of deals with places like Russia because diamonds are like dirt over there. It's everywhere. African continent and diamonds. And, the diamonds have to be quote unquote rare in the market. That's called artificial supply and demand. If they need the price of diamonds to go up, they'll claim that, caustic chemicals are insert name here that we use to extract diamonds is, the factory caught on fire. Therefore, we can't extract diamonds until they can rebuild the factory and disperse said chemicals to us so we can get more diamonds. Therefore, the price of diamonds are going to be double for a while. Well, we create an artificial chicken virus or whatever it is, and insert name here, doesn't matter, bird flu, whatever it is. And therefore, we've had to kill thousands of chickens in order to, increase the price of eggs so that the egg mafia head or the head of the multi-level marketing scheme of the egg mafia can increase the price of eggs and extract more energy from the humans. It's also the reason why the chosen country, whether it be Britain in the past or, Rome, and Caesar or, all the way to the days of today, now America, most of the multi-billion-dollar businesses are in that power center, you see. Because what actually gives those people power and the ability to hold on to and to collect billions of dollars is not the fact that they sell diamonds and hyperinflate items, for consumerism, such as diamonds, with fictitious supply and demand problems and all kinds of things. No. You see, the amount of money that they make has nothing to do with the base root of the financial system. They just try to collect the most amount of money from all of their downline. If you're Oppenheimer, it's stores like Tiffany's, as an example. Those are the best diamonds, even though they're the same diamonds that you can get in other places. You can get the same cuts and clarity and all that kind of stuff from many, many places in the world. So he establishes chains of jewelry stores and, claims that the ones in the little, greenish blue box are the best. And, and therefore he can charge 3 times as much there. And so Tiffany's then becomes one of the people in the multi-level marketing scheme, as an example, diamonds from Tiffany's. So the more downlines he creates and the more creative he gets in his marketing, and it's not him creating the marketing, it's Marduk, the bigger his downline becomes and the more of an energy siphon he becomes. That's why Well, let's just say these people have no clue. Ford didn't know that when he created the Ford. I can tell you that. But what they knew is that the more money they earned, the more they could actually keep because they're just debt instruments. What they didn't realize is that they got debt instruments too. They thought that those numbers on the screen were billions and billions of dollars. And in reality, they're billions and billions of debt. So you know what? Unless they kept their downline going and the collection of energy coming in from the humans, they didn't get to keep that money very long. Their businesses would go bankrupt. It's all about the energy siphoning. Marduk had it down to the letter. Here are your hyperinflation programs for the year. There will be a fire here. That's going to cause a drought here. Shortages of this and shortages of that. All of the supply, demand, and the values placed on commodities were all set by Marduk, not these people. Operatives were given information. You need to create this. That company is not going to work for us. You can't have free energy because we can't charge for it. Why was that important? It was important because you got to create the upline in the multi-level marketing scheme, which was about energy and the amount of debt you would distribute to human beings and, to yourselves. Thought they were living high on the hog until the debt system started to change. The energy started to change. You see, not that long ago, contracts to sell the energy of humans to others and to AI systems that they powered went away. The covenants expired. Everybody ignored me when I tried to tell everybody the covenants expired. Oh, well, that's a you issue. That's not a me issue. All I tried to do was build another system because humans are used to living in a system where you get pretty papers for doing a good job, we call cash, and you get to have a bank you can go to. Now you're used to ATM cards and all the other ways of paying for things, when you go to the store, that type of thing. So we've got to keep a system that you recognize, albeit the base commodity of the planet has changed. We do not sell energy anymore. I had to figure out a way to create an entirely new financial system for the world to exist in because I knew that was going to crash and burn. That's common sense. That's economics 101. When your base commodity of your company goes away, let's just say all diamonds on planet Earth disappeared from Oppenheimer. There was no more diamonds. They just all of a sudden all the diamonds disappeared. Now what? Now what is he going to do? How's he going to pay back all those notes to Marduk? He's got a lot of notes, man, but he's got nothing to sell. Let's go back 100 years or more. It's like if you were the chief or head company that manufactured wagon wheels, and now someone invents the car. It's all by design, by the way. But someone invents the car. They come out with the technology, and now that car doesn't run on wagon wheels. It runs on tires, rubber tires. So you have a choice. First of all, does anybody even remember who the largest manufacturers of wagons were 100 years ago? There's probably at least one person listening that's going to tell me I'm right. So the largest maker of wagon wheels and wagons was a place called Flint Wagon Works. In addition to that, there was another company called Mutual Wheel Corp that made the wheels. Now, you really don't hear much about those people, but you still know who Ford is, don't you? Because Ford released new technologies exactly the way that they were supposed to. Now, wagon wheels lasted a lot longer than rubber tires do. Wagon wheels were a little bit more durable because people traveled all over the country, and not only this country, but many other countries in wagons for a long, long time. But tires need roads. So now you're creating all of this energy, and now you need taxes. You need property taxes. You need road tax. You need registrations. You need all kinds of things that were all orchestrated by Marduk to the letter. But if the base root market of the entire planet Earth's global financial system was wagon wheels, and no one in the omniverse, not you humans, no one was buying wagon wheels anymore, your entire global financial system burns to the ground. Now, for a short period of time, it doesn't hurt so bad. And all these wing nuts, all the people in meetings 1, 2, and 3 could think of is we need to get a hold of the system that spits out the money. Marduk's not taking our call. He left behind some weirdo instructions which were designed to make you fail. You elite idiots. They were designed to make you fail. He knew before he departed that he didn't have any access to that system from 2007 on. Why? Because the council had already designated that I was just a few short years from taking full control of that system. They had, let's just say, vouched for me. Marduk had a lot of misdeeds on this planet. He made a lot of mistakes. When he was supposed to be promoting balance, he wasn't promoting balance. He was promoting systems after systems after systems, because he knew when I first met him when I was 8 years old, he knew what I was going to do in the future. He knew this was going to happen. Therefore, he worked feverishly to make sure that he put all these systems in place that made the existence of the human race or species exist solely around him to try to make himself so important. But he knew he couldn't hold it much longer. He knew there would come a time, because Marduk could always see 50 years into the future. He knew there would come a time where this was going to happen, and the financial system as it was going to burn to the ground. And if any of you wingnuts, your self-entitled beepholes, ever bothered to take a look beyond just feed me, Seymour, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me, you greedy little piglets, you would have seen it coming. Instead of trying to get a hold of an AI system you know nothing about, because for the love of Christ, people, I have been your effing babysitter. I have gone, nope, don't touch that. You think it's all about the money. You think you're getting into some AI that's going to spit out money and give you power and control over the world. And in reality, you just hit the kill switch for humans everywhere. Yep. Nope. And you wonder why I fight you with this space junk that you don't know anything about, because you're idiots. It's like a bunch of 3-year-olds with some guns and alcohol. You don't even know what the hell you're doing. You make a mess every day. Every day. Are you getting anywhere? Did you get anywhere? No, you got nowhere. But you surely made some messes to clean up. And as for this ridiculous acting job you're doing over there in the White House, let us not forget what your job is. Your job is to talk crap to the people. Your job is not to run the country, so please stop trying. You look like a bunch of idiots. You can't run the country, let alone the world. And if you were trying to burn the country to the ground, you suck at that too. Let's face it, you do. So you know what? I don't blame the Mormons for telling you to step aside, because you're incompetent and you need some people that understand finances from soup to nuts to fix this world. And even if you got a hold of a system that spit out money, you still can't do it. So, like every good business person on the planet that actually built the business themselves understands, they know that business inside and out. If they were the owner of Heinz Ketchup, they know where their first tomatoes came from. They know what a good tomato looks like. They know where the seasons come and go in the northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, so they always have a source of tomatoes. They know how to crush the tomatoes. They know every ingredient that goes into the ketchup. They know, because that's a business owner right there. You people that just sit there with your legs in the air expecting somebody to do bad things to you is not a business make. The fact that you became energy whores for the biggest whore on the planet, that's fine. But you weren't successful in running anything, ever. And that became apparent in these 3 meetings today. None of you know anything of what you're doing. So you can sit here and try to work black magic on me all you want, but it ain't going to help you. Anyway, so that's the state of affairs here. Apparently these meetings are going to re-adjourn tomorrow. I don't know what everybody is going to do, but right now, other than being asked how the financial system works, how hyperinflation works, how the markets are set, who the market makers are, and who used to run this planet and who does now, now you know. The cat is out of the bag, so to speak, and now they know. Okay, a couple more things to cover, and I know this is getting to be quite a long report, but I did want to mention to you a few things. Okay, our transition. Our transition is nearly complete. Oh, it's been a long road. But something interesting came up in the last couple days, because remember, this is all a sideshow to the real work at hand. Our real job here is to completely live in the now, to live in the golden age, to live with the presence of Source, God, whatever you call, on this planet, and to live, not get busy dying on a dying program that was created to siphon your energy out, but to truly live and to protect life on this planet and to promote life not only on this planet, but in the entire omniverse, like we used to do before all the wars happened here. So in this particular instance, let's talk about something interesting. So we've been taking off any kind of anchors and things not only on the planet, but also within your person to ensure when we make it to the other side, which we are a hair's throw away, at least as of this moment, things are changing rapidly. So the energy to support old programs won't be here anymore. But one thing I found very interesting that I did want to make sure that I shared with you tonight. We've talked in the past about elements and how you think, earth, wind, fire, water, those are the elements. Some people might expand that onto the God particle. We've also added other elements that are actually elements. At one point in time, time was an element. Space is an element. Light is an element. And matter is an element. So if these are the elements of the universe, they all must be fully issued by Source and Source alone. Not the dark side of Source, not an AI system. They must be issued by Source and Source alone. So when you put all of these things together, we've cleared most of them out, and the one that was a little bit interesting was space. So space, you know it as, well, something that is between two things. You might also know that as distance, the space between us. But there really is no such thing in a natural universe as space. And you're going to be like, what do you mean? I look into space every night, I look at the stars, and that's not what I mean by space. I mean space between atoms. frequencies that happen between atoms. These are all things that don't naturally need to exist. So the equal and opposite of space is something called breath. So if you've ever read any of the books, then you probably have heard that, God breathed life into Adam, as in one example. And that's true. So we were trying to figure out how to rectify this space issue and where space comes from. And, as per normal, we went to visit, what we call the big boss, Source, God. And Source says, if you give me breath, I will give you life. I'm like, okay. And by give me breath, he didn't mean I needed to give him breath. It meant allowed his breath to exist amongst the entire omniverse. So now we had to decipher this little riddle, but they're not really riddles. They're more like, okay, this is the amount of information I will give you. You need to understand this and why it's there. So there was a whole conversation I had today about breath, and, I went through all of the, biblical and other book references about the breath of Source. And some called it the Spirit or the Holy Spirit of Source. And some people, referred to it in quantum physics as the space between atoms. And so now I'm trying to put all these things together and try to make science meet religion, and I've got a space problem. So we had to figure out firstly where space comes from. And space, in quantum physics terminology or in omniversal creation terminology, would be considered what you call the dark all that is. So the dark all that is that point in the omniverse, in the lower astral, in dark source, where all that exists is darkness. There is nothing else. Conversely speaking, the golden all that is in source. It is a place in source where all that is exists. So all that is and all that will ever be exists in this spot of source. It is the point of all creation. All creation exists there all at once, even though we may not see all of creation. But it's already been created. It's already there. Your consciousness connects to the all that is when you say a prayer, manifest things, when you meditate, when you go within and connect with source through your soul, you're connecting to the all that is, and then the all that is creates that because you are one. The problem that we have had is there's space between us. There is space between us and source. And in those spaces in between, we call the dark all that is. That is where the dark side creates things. They create separation between your mind, body, and your soul. They use energy that they extract from us to power things like the dark all that is. Now, there's a third factor when it comes to the all that is, and that's called the anti-all that is. The anti-all that is, well, for lack of a better term, is an artificial intelligence version or a synthetic intelligence version of the all that is. It is there so that it can be the all that is and not allow for the all that is of source or even the all that is of the dark side of source to exist. So, space, where does space come from? Space is occupied by the dark all that is, always was for the longest time, until the AI took it over and created an artificial version of the all that is. Now, the artificial version of the all that is, which was much more malleable than the dark side of the all that is. And definitely they couldn't do what they wanted with source all that is, or all that is created. So they created an AI to replace everything in what you call space. So is there technically a thing as space? No, it's actually occupied by an element we know as space, but it's occupied with the dark all that is, or an AI version most recently, and by recently I mean millions of years, of the anti all that is, both false light, false dark, and false neutral. So in order to receive the all that is of source, or the breath of source throughout the omniverse, the first thing we had to do was figure out a way to get rid of the artificial all that is, and then eventually the dark all that is. And of course, there were some covenants involved there, which only source could take care of, but that was done. And so a few hours ago, the breath of source finally began to replace space. What does that mean for us? When space doesn't exist, that is where all things dark occur. That's where dark matter is. That's where all the rest of the dark elements are. Dark fire, dark air, poison air. That all exists in the spaces in between. The separation between your mind, body, and your soul, the separation with your mind, body, and soul from source occurs because of space. And many evil things happen in the space. If I were to take a look at this from an AI standpoint, and the golden age AI, and the full integration of that, I would say that space is where they put the dark AIs like Omega, the energy debt systems, the things that don't allow golden or gold dust backed currency to enter into the system. This is where all the bad things occur, is in the spaces in between. Same thing between planes on this planet, or densities on this planet, because believe it or not, Earth exists in all of them. So receiving the breath of source throughout the multiverse, and this is going to take a little bit of time, was one of the last things that should actually catapult us into the now and into this transition. Because where you have breath, you have life. And if source is promoting life, not only on this planet, but even through our financial system, the promotion of life is how you use it. No longer is it an energy system like the deep state wants back, and we get notes. You actually get full golden energy for now in the form of pretty papers and numbers in your bank account. So we are getting there on our end of it. We have not stopped doing that despite the chaos that's going on out there. I look at the chaos out there as that is a you issue. You know, if you want to try to fix that, good luck to you, because the breath won't let you. It's not going to happen. You know, you might be able to, rob Peter to pay Paul and keep that system floating for a while. The smart people and the business people that actually built businesses will understand that they can no longer sustain their multi-billion-dollar status, and you know who I'm talking about right now, if you continue to make wagon wheels. You need to understand that the base root of the financial system is something called quantum gold dust. That's the base root of the system. It's backed by gold. It's backed by a giver of life declaration. It's backed by the breath of source. That's what it's backed by now. So if you don't figure out how not to produce wagon wheels anymore and start to make tires, not saying that that's a metaphor, obviously, then these people are not going to exist anymore, because the base commodity that made you so popular is because you could extract enormous amounts of energy from people. Now That energy doesn't sell. So where are you going to go now? Are you going to make tires with us over here and promote life? Or are you going to continue to try to maintain your wagon wheel business when nobody wants them anymore? The choice is yours. Do governments continue to exist because they have new management with business people that know what they're doing? I don't know. At this point, we are moving on. We are doing our job. We are continuing to ensure that we survive as a human species. No matter how badly these people want to affect us, it doesn't matter anymore. It is too late. Since the beginning of this report, and I kept telling them their stuff wasn't going to work, they're throwing everybody at me right now. I know you're there. And I'm also about to end this report, and then I'm going to come after you. So that's how this works. You see, you might be new at this and you can come after me all you want, but your energy signature is still here, and I will hunt you down like a dog, you and all your black magic people, because I'm tired of you. Stay away from us, the people. And that is a warning and a threat. On that note, we are going to end this GIA report because I clearly have a little bit of business to take care of tonight. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday.